Welcome to Mrs. Pete's Thrifty Living. I'm so happy you're here today. Today is another glimpse in my life. This is the 34th episode that I've had here, and I hope you'll enjoy it. You know, as I'm going along, it's getting harder to think of things to say. And like I've told you before, I've lived in the same area now for all these years. So sometimes the division lines are harder, but I thought I would talk about one. But in the meantime, let me move myself around. You can see back there. Tomorrow, I'm going to be giving you a tour of the inside of that. My son has finished that little house, and he hopes to put it up on the market. And of course, it'd have to be moved out of my yard to its final resting home. Hopefully somebody gets it that will love it. I decided to set this up outside because it's so pretty and I wanted the background to be there. And there is an airplane that's been flying around. We have a little airport close by, and they're small airplanes, and I think people either rent them sometimes. There might be a few, not big jets or anything that go out of here, but so every once in a while, I stop probably for a minute just now, and I'll probably clip that off where it won't be there. But today, as I was saying, you know, I've told you, be sure to go back and watch all or any of A Glimpse of My Life. It starts off at 1 when I was born, actually before I was born, and tells about my life story. You know, I did a lot of moving around. I married when I was really young. And I moved what I didn't move one way, I moved another. My ex-husband was a young preacher, and the grass was always greener on the other side of the hill. That's what I always said because it seems so true. So we did a lot of moving, and after we had been married 11 years, he decided to go into the Navy. And so what we didn't move one way, we moved another. And sad to tell you, after 19 years of marriage, we did get a divorce. And you think your life's over, but it's not. And actually, sometimes that's the beginning of a wonderful life. It wasn't too long, and I met my husband that just passed away not quite 2 years, 2 years ago now. I was married almost 40 years, just a few months short of that. So it's all in my stories. You can go back and listen to all of it or any of it. But what I thought I would talk about today is our life during the pandemic. I know you all had a life during the pandemic, and I just thought I would talk about that today. Some of the things that we went through and did during the pandemic time. At the very beginning of this time, when they were just starting to talk about this virus going through, you know, we didn't know a lot about it, and you'd hear little bits and pieces on the news. I think that airplane is getting ready to get closer. I may have to stop for a few. In the February, before it became really popular, or so much so, I went with my son and daughter-in-law down to another town about 3 hours away to the service of my dear sister-in-law, my ex-sister-in-law. When she had passed away, they had a wonderful funeral for her, and her daughter from Oklahoma got to come and got to see some of our nieces and the nephews that lived down in the area where they were. And we had a nice visit with them, and as good as you can have when you go to something like that. I remember feeling pretty good on the way home, but the next day, and I began to feel sick, and I didn't know what it was, and I didn't think it was, you know, you always think, well, I'll give myself this long to before I go to the doctor. And you know, all those tests, they weren't readily available as much as they became later. And so I ended up going to bed, and I was cold and shivery and lots of different things. I never did lose my sense of smell, and I understand that's one, but I always felt like maybe I did have that big C word, but is that what they called it? Because there's some other big C words that I don't want to say either. Um, but I didn't go to the doctor, and eventually I got okay. So that was what happened to begin with. But as time went by, everything started shutting up. There was a run on toilet paper in the stores, and different items that people wanted to stock up on. And by the way, somewhere during that time, we ended up getting a bidet, and that come in handy. You still have to use some toilet paper, but I think you use a lot less. Go to the store, they would limit so many that could go in the store. All the little footprints that don't get any closer than this, and you didn't want to infect anybody. You didn't want to get infected yourself, so there was so many precautions in line at that time. Eventually, we got in the rhythm of this new lifestyle for us. We had gotten into the habit of, we would, like I still do to this day, going to the donut shop. Richard and I would get ready and get up in the morning and get around and go to the donut shop, and he would read the newspaper. We would both read it, or I would do my Bible study. Then we began doing a little cryptophone puzzle that we both would work on. And I thought, I'm helping his mind stay good and clear, and we won't get Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever. So staying active in our minds, that's good for us too. So we did that, but our donut shop decided to, they were supposed to close up. Well, they did open where you could come in and buy a dozen donuts and go. Well, that's not what we wasn't just there for eating a donut. We was there for the visit and the company and the experience of going there. It was our socializing time. And let's see. So further away in another little town close by, we found another donut shop that they pulled some of their tables outside where the people could still get their donut and get their coffee, sit down and visit, and just enjoy the time out, depending on the weather. So we got to where we would go over there quite often. And so we still was able to keep up with a little bit of what was going on in our lives, of what we enjoyed to do. And to this day, when I'm over on that side of town or in that little town, I'll go over there. They're really sweet people there. Most of our donut shops here, we do have a Dunkin' Donut. And I think they used to have a Winchell's, but we don't now. But we have a lot of donut shops. I'd say at least 4 that I can think of right offhand, maybe 5, that are run by different Cambodian people. They make the best donuts, and of course we got to know a lot of them. So I don't see that in other towns, and there may be, but when I go to other cities and go away, I'm always looking for a local donut shop, and I always want to go in there. Now we have lots of cars going down the road. Okay. Our church even went through a lot of that. For a few Sundays, they closed the doors of the church, and they tried having it drive-in church, set it up outside, and that worked for just 2 or 3 weeks. It wasn't the best setup. Everybody didn't have the radio that they could listen to it in their car, and we could wave to that next person in the car next to us. I mean, it was okay, but it was still not the best idea in the world. Then they had church online, which they never had the singing or anything like that. It was just the pastor bringing the message. And to this day, we still have our sermon online, and so many people enjoy that. And if we miss the service, and then we can go back and see it. A lot of the churches don't have the singing on because of the copyrights but you can do your sermon. So a lot of them just had the sermon. And let's see, what else was I going to tell you about that? Oh, and then eventually we was back in our church, and they spread the chairs way apart where you wouldn't have to be close to the next person. And some people chose to wear masks at that time also. There was a few. And to this day, and the hand sanitizer, that was a wow. Somebody must have made a fortune on that. And I still carry a little bottle of hand sanitizer in my purse. And I will go around the church and shake hands with everybody, walk back to my seat, and use my little hand sanitizer and feel like I'm okay. I don't know. Do you feel that way? I'm happy to say that it's past beyond us, most of all of that now. And I hated wearing those masks. I know maybe they were good, and you guys might feel different about it. Everybody has a right to their own opinion. And in the right situation, I still might wear a mask. I made a bunch of those masks at that time. I made some pretty little different, decorated ones with pretty fabrics and all. And let's see. Sad to tell you, I knew several people that did pass away during that time. Some of them, they said, was due to the big C word. We lost Richard's sister and Richard's brother during that time. They were not because of that. They had bad health to begin with. And his sister, the sad part is, it was during that time they wouldn't let us come in the hospital to visit her. It still makes me so sad, the very thought of her being in the hospital without her family. And we got to where, we'd try to call her on the phone, but, she wasn't up to talking to us. And that just is a sad time to know that you had to be, that you were in the hospital alone and had to go that way. Because she had Jesus. That's a wonderful thought, to know that she was not alone because Jesus was with her. But as far as her family, she didn't have her family. Now, my brother-in-law, his son was so adamant, he ended up taking him out of the hospital, bringing him home, and had hospice care for the last few days. And we all got to go say goodbye to him. And that was wonderful. I'm sure you all have your own, make sure I'm still on. I'm sure you all have your own stories to tell during this time. And maybe you don't even like the thought of me bringing this up, but it's still part of a big part that stole a lot of our time from a lot of people. And I just thank the Lord that we're not there now. We need to always be prepared for these little times that are these big times that we might need to go to the store and might have to have something extra in our cupboards, some extra toilet paper and extra things that you cannot live without, or you don't think you can live without. I don't want to just leave you on a sad note, but this was a time in our life, and I'm sure there was good times during this time. I did finish my piano. I quilted more. I sewed. I got projects done around the house where normally I'm one, let's go and then we'll get home and do the things we need to do. So everybody has a different way of thinking and doing. And I know if you look hard enough during this time, you can think of something that good came out of. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your comments. I really do appreciate it. And let me see, I want to tell you that tomorrow, that house back there, I'm going to be going inside of it. I've already filmed it. Got to edit it a little bit, not a lot, and show you the inside of that beautiful little tiny home that Josh built. I pray you'll come back tomorrow. I pray you'll come back every time. If you know somebody that would like something like this, just share it with them. I appreciate it if you do. And I pray God blesses you. Jesus is the reason, not just for the season of Christmas, I started to say it like that, but always. He lives in my heart, and I pray he lives in yours. You can ask Jesus into your heart today. He's there waiting for you. He loves you, and he'll take care of you. I'll see you tomorrow. And like, subscribe, comment if you haven't, and I'll see you tomorrow.